There's a footy in there, a dual international as well. He's played lots of footy games and has so many stories to tell.
Oh, stop that racket. It's story time with Matt Rogers.
Oh, it's back. It is back. Story time with Matt Rogers. I'm excited.
I get nervous.
You get nervous? Why?
Well, I don't know. One, talking about people that I've met, but also, you know, some of the things are pretty embarrassing too.
Well, what are you going to tell us about today? What's the story about?
Oh, well, I loved as a kid, and I've been watching this this documentary series on wrestling on SBS, and it's just took me back to my childhood.
Rock and roll wrestling.
Well,
which isn't real
rock
wrestling.
And roll wrestling. Rock and roll wrestling
WWE.
was actually just a really small time when MTV came in, and MTV partnered with wrestling, and they created rock and roll wrestling. That was just a little gimmick thing to get more viewers, and it worked because they had Cyndi Lauper came in, and you know it was huge in the 80s. You probably don't realise this because you're not an avid wrestling fan like I was in the 80s.
No, I wasn't born yet.
Oh yeah, of course not. But man, I loved wrestling as a kid. My dad took me to the Sydney Entertainment Centre, and you know I got to watch, you know, the WWE, or it wasn't the WWE then; it was the WCW World Championship Wrestling come out, and all the stars, you know. And man,
Did you know it wasn't real when you went, or did
no,
you think it was real
not
when
as
you were a kid?
Well, I thought it was real, but I thought it was real enough. I thought it was real enough, you know, like. What I actually was intrigued by as a young kid was the size of these guys and their athleticism. That's what sort of intrigued me. And it actually intrigued my dad too.
And girls. There were girls wrestling too,
Not as
weren't
much
there?
back then.
Oh, no?
No, not in those days. It was, you know, the time of like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
When was Fantastic Moolah? Wasn't she?
Oh, she was around.
She was around.
Yeah,
she was
but
around for a long time. She was
time.
still wrestling
But-
at 80 or something,
Yeah,
wasn't
but
she?
it's hard to sort of explain, to put into context. Not the WWE divas that are now, that was nothing like that back then. So
Right.
it was just, you know, guys like Hillbilly Jim and Ravishing Rick Rude and Sting. You know, the Hart
Sting?
Foundation.
He wrestled, did he?
Sting. Well, he was a wrestler. Yeah, he was great. You know,
It
the
wasn't
Nature
the
Boy,
Sting.
Ric Flair. The Nature Boy was like, he was the guy that always just like went woo all the time. Like, he was unreal. And Jake the Snake Roberts used to come out to the ring with
the
this
snake?
massive snake.
No.
Yeah, like a big python. And when he'd take out his opposition, he'd put the python on them. This one match with Jake the Snake Roberts, he wrestled the Macho Man Randy Savage, and he had a king cobra.
No.
Yeah.
Isn't that like cheating, having extra help?
Well,
Like, you could bring an
after
alligator
he'd sort
in.
of beaten him, he put this cobra out, and this cobra started biting him. Yeah, like obviously they'd taken the fangs out or whatever, but it was like a
Oh,
brutal
my
attack, and
goodness.
this snake wouldn't let him go.
Oh,
And
my
it was
goodness.
just, it was frightening. But that was like crazy. You know, there was the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. They were like this pair from Russia. It was just crazy times, and I loved it. Then in the 90s, when I became like a football player and I started playing for Australia and all that sort of stuff, the wrestling sort of got bigger. And it became more international because we had like, you know, cable television, like Foxtel had started.
And
all
that was
sort
all
of stuff.
Vince McMahon back then, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. So he sort of like basically pulled them all together.
I know a few things. I knew Hulk Hogan and The Rock.
Yeah. Well,
mainly through Jack
Yeah.
and John Cena.
So that's what happened, right? So I'm playing for Australia. They're coming out to Australia, and just to sort of cross promote, people knew that I was a fan who were the promoters, so they would ring me and say, "Can you come out and meet the guys, and we'll do some press around it and stuff." I'm like,
Wow.
"Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome." So I take Jack out, and he's
He's our eldest, by the way.
yeah, he's 24 now.
24 now.
So he was like 5 or 6, I think, back then. No, he was 5 actually. Because I'll tell you what happened.
Hold up, wait a minute. If you want to hear the rest of this story, you are going to have to wait until after this. This is Good Taste Brekky. If you've just joined us, we are smack bang in the middle of another story time with Matt. Let me set the scene for you. It's the early 90s. He is just about to meet the one and only Vince McMahon from the WWE with our son Jack, who was 5 years old at the time.
So we meet Vince McMahon, and this is when the sort of the WWE divas had
Is
just
this
started.
before or after the show? So you're at the show.
No, this is like a promo, like
Oh,
in
it's
the,
just a
in the
promo.
lead up.
Right,
So
right.
they're out here promoting a show that's coming out in 3 months.
Yep.
I go out and I'm having lunch with Vince McMahon, Stacey Keebler, who's one of the WWE divas, and Mark Henry, and they call Mark Henry the strongest man in the world. This guy was
Was he in movies as well?
No.
No. Okay.
So, yeah, the strongest man in the world. He's like a 400-pound African-American dude, and he is huge.
Wow.
And we're sitting there having lunch, And Jack's sort of looking at this guy, just like staring at him. He's never seen a human this big. Mark Henry says to Jack, "Hey, Jack, you want to wrestle?" and Jack's eyes are like dinner plates. He's 5. And he shakes his hand. And to Jack's credit, Jack goes, "Nah, I'm only 5. But if I was 6, I'd wrestle you." And he just brought like Vince McMahon to his knees in stitches laughing. It was hilarious. But to sort of flow on from that, and it's funny that you talk about, you know, the wrestling being fake, because it's scripted to a degree, but like they are putting themselves out there. You know, some of the stunts and some of the things that they do. I mean, athleticism is, you know, off the charts, and, you know, the risk levels to get injured are enormous. When I was a kid, you know, and I loved the wrestling, there was a move that I used to always try and put on my brother, and it was the figure 4 leg lock.
Not the people's elbow?
No, that wasn't out at that point. So the figure 4 leg lock, it was...
The figure 4 leg lock.
Yeah.
So you basically just get all four legs. You've only got 2 legs.
Well, basically what you do is you sort of put their legs into sort of like a figure of 4. And Greg the Hammer Valentine, he was the man, that was his move. So he would finish people off with the figure 4 leg lock and they'd tap out like a submission move. So I would try and put it on my brother, and I just couldn't do it.
Did your brother do it?
No, none of us could do it. Like, it was just, and I thought it was a gimmick. So I'm like, the next group that come out, the Nature Boy Ric Flair comes out, and like, this is Ric Flair. Yeah,
is he that one?
Yeah, he's that guy. Like, well, actually, before that, I was with this big guy, this other guy named Big Popper Pump, and he had these massive arms, and he was like mate, he was a beast. And I sort of was asking him about the
figure 4.
Well, not the figure 4, but how real it was. And he took offence to it. And I'm like, righto, no more questions about how real it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that again. So then I go on and I'm hanging out with Ric Flair, and we're on the Sydney Football Stadium. And I said to him, "Man, you know, when I was a kid," and this is a conversation with Ric Flair, just me and him chatting away. And I said, "When I was a kid, I used to try and put the figure 4 leg lock on my brother. Like, it was the only move I was allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to do a pile driver or anything because it was too dangerous. Like, my dad wouldn't let us do those. And please, kids, do not try these moves at home. Like, it's not to do at home." Anyway, my brother and I couldn't do this move. And so I sort of said to Rick, like, Nature Boy, "Mate, does it really hurt?" And his eyes sort of lit up like, "Are you questioning like our sport?" And I'm like,
"Oh, no.
"Oh, if I offended you," he goes, "Do you want me to, I'll show you how to do it."
Oh, no.
And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome." So he put me in a figure 4 leg lock in the middle of the Sydney Football Stadium and made me tap out, and it was brutal.
Was it painful?
Oh, it was.
It doesn't sound good.
I felt like my shin was going to snap across my other shin. Like, it was that painful. And he goes, "Does it hurt now?" And he just leant back, and I was like, "Ah!" I'm tapping, and like, I've got like press from the NRL there. And they're
filming?
like, they're freaking out.
No.
Like, I'm not going to be able to play this week because I've just been put in a figure 4 leg lock by Ric Flair, and how I'm sort of like giving him a hard time about how real it is. And man, I'll tell you what, it was a moment in time because it took me back to my youth. But I was like eyeball to eyeball with Ric Flair, and he's like, "Is this hurt?" And yeah, it was.
So now you know how to do it?
I can't remember now. You know, they say use it or lose it, and I haven't used it for a long time, so I've lost how to do it. But I can vouch for how real that move is now. So don't put a figure 4 leg lock on with any of the people that you love.
I was going to say we could use it to discipline the kids, but maybe not.
No, I don't think so.
You have been listening to Storytime with Matt on Juice 107.3.